Former undisputed champion Artur Beterbiev is set to face Dion Nicholson this November. The guy doesn't even have a Wikipedia page. Anyway, Beterbiev is coming off a pair of very good fights with Dmitry Bivol, winning the first fight but losing the second. This called for a trilogy by everybody, and this makes sense because they're 1-1. So why is the trilogy not happening? Why is Beterbiev fighting a no-name in Nicholson and not Dmitry Bivol? Now, people are quick to call a certain fighter a duck if a fight does not work out. The only criticism I could understand towards Bivol is he really wanted this fight to happen in Russia, which is his home country, but technically it is Beterbiev's home country as well. However, Beterbiev does live in Canada and he trains out of Canada. But I also don't think it's really a big deal to want to have the fight in Russia, if they're both born in Russia. They're from Russia. They're Russian. If they're proud to be Russian. If Artur Beterbiev is really proud to be Russian, what's the big deal? You should be happy to have it in Russia. However, both fights were in Saudi, so it does make sense for the third fight to be in Saudi, in neutral ground, even though Saudi is very boring. Now, Bivol has fought 4 times in almost a year, and during those fights, it has been reported that he has picked up multiple injuries. When you're fighting that often at a high level, especially against Artur Beterbiev, one of the hardest punchers of all time, you're fighting 4 times in almost a year, having back-to-back training camps, damaging the body, putting a lot of wear and tear on the body. At 34 years old, your body's going to take damage, and that's completely understandable. I definitely believe that Bivol was experiencing some injuries during that 4-fight stretch. I mean, we saw in his last fight against Beterbiev when he won. It looked like he had a hand injury, that he was really changing his whole style. If you want to fight a dangerous fighter like Beterbiev, you have to be at your healthiest, right? You just have to be healthy. You don't want to be putting your body on the line, especially at 34 years old. A guy like Bivol, he has the money now. He's set for life. He doesn't need to be putting his body more on the line. He has kids, right? He doesn't need to be putting his body on the line just to try to please the fans now. Try to fight through injuries. Try to postpone surgeries. He doesn't need to do that. At 34 years old, has all the money he needs right now. Is undisputed. No one can take that away from him. It's just not worth it, really, to keep fighting through injury. So it does make sense on his part if the injuries are true, and it does make sense, and I can see the injuries with his hand against Beterbiev. So I really don't think that Bivol is scared of Beterbiev. He fought him twice. He wanted that rematch after Beterbiev beat him. He wanted that rematch, and Bivol was getting walked back the whole first fight. And what happened in the second fight? Bivol stood there. He went toe-to-toe with Beterbiev much more often. If you go toe-to-toe with Beterbiev and outbox him all 12 rounds and beat him, how are you going to tell me that Bivol's scared? How are you going to tell me that Bivol is ducking? Is he handling this the right way? Is he handling this professionally? Maybe not. But is he ducking? Is he scared? Absolutely not. And they call him scared. To call him a duck is just ridiculous. Sure, you could blame him for him not doing his part, him not carrying his weight to make this trilogy. But he doesn't really need this trilogy. The rematch is what happened. The rematch was guaranteed. It's 1-1. Nothing says you have to have that trilogy. I'm sure there's nothing in the contract that says there needs to be a trilogy. The trilogy at this point is really just to please, of course, Turkey. Of course, please the fans. I can't complain if I see a trilogy between 2 of the best boxers in the past decade. And it's really just to please their pockets. Bivol and Beterbiev's pockets, right? But it's not really necessary. There's no legal lawsuit bound to happen if the trilogy doesn't happen, right? Belts are probably going to be stripped if nothing happens, right? They're just going to have to fight mandatories. Before we continue, I'm going to give a shout out to my sponsor, that's Hayabusa, some of the best boxing equipment out there. Make sure to use the code ALEXD, ALEXD, all caps, get a percentage off your order. It actually does impress me, though, on Beterbiev's part, that he's 40 years old, and he's still taking these types of fights, these tune-up fights, trying to stay active, trying to build his way back into the title shot, right? It impresses me. It really does. He's fighting this no-name in Nicholson, and no disrespect to Nicholson. When I say he's a no-name, he is a no-name. Obviously, he's a very talented boxer. I looked up a bit of him before this video. Has a solid record to him, all right? Solid boxer. But he's a no-name in terms of the top contenders that a guy like Beterbiev, a high-level guy like Beterbiev, should be fighting. Usually guys at that age, they just want the big money fights and, go away after a while, retire on those fights. He's fighting this guy just to stay active, right? Just to stay active. 40 years old, no titles on the line. Staying it to stay active, just getting a tune-up fight until hopefully he gets those belts back against Bivol. He's wanting to get those belts back against Bivol. He's hoping for it, so trying to stay active. That's good on Beterbiev's part. That's very impressive that he's still doing that 40. It is. It really is. The fight's probably going to be boring. I expect Artur Beterbiev in 6 rounds, all right, win by stoppage. But it is impressive to me that he's still trying to take these tune-ups, still trying to get these fights at 40 years old. So, will I think we see the trilogy? It's going to happen next year, or it won't happen at all. Alrighty, will we see Bivol even fight again? I think we will. I think we'll see Bivol fight again. And we probably will see the trilogy. They might not be at their best anymore. if it happens in maybe, like, let's say April or May. But I think we will. But it has to happen next year, because I'm definitely not going to go into 2026. You know, we have some guys bumping up to 175 now. David Morrell, David Benavidez. All right, some guys out 175 who need some title shots. All right, they're hungry. We can't keep letting these old guys like Bivol and Beterbiev holding the belts hostage. So I think the fight, if it's going to happen, it has to happen next year. And I do trust that it will. But we'll see who wins. I mean, it's still a 50-50 fight. It's 1-1. It's 50-50 right there. Two very good boxers. Bivol needs to do what he does. Stay more toe-to-toe. Don't try to get back down. Try to box. And Beterbiev needs to just try to fight and to set up more punches. Try to damage Bivol more. Try to have Bivol get trapped more on the ropes in the corner. Just like we saw in those first two fights. We saw the game plans and the adjustments that both fighters made. So let me know what you guys think down below. Is Bivol really a duck? I don't think he is. Will we see the fight in the future? A trilogy fight in the future? Let me know down below. I'm out, guys. Peace.